yeah, not smart. She should have kept that information to herself. Information to herself. She should have kept that information to herself. Not smart.
The full phone conversation between Melanie and her friend, and my commentary.
People have an opportunity to decide if those things are true or not. But as I've said before, if it leads to death, it doesn't sound like it's true. It doesn't sound like it's true. It doesn't sound like it's true.
Anyway, it takes months and months and months for them to figure out how to come up with a plan, basically. And I guess it comes down to it is she's frustrated him to every level. She's left. She says she puts it in your mind like, oh, look how he's behaving. He's so different now. He's this and that and this and that. Well, Charles is upset because she just tried to destroy his life.
Not to mention, while Lori was trying to destroy his life, Melanie was more than happy to assist her in lying to the police on Lori's behalf to continue to destroy his life.
She told him he was out of town when she found out, and he was in another state. And when she flew back home, she took his truck and hid it, took all the keys and took them from him. I mean, try to destroy. You think that's a bit extreme? Like, are you sure you're supposed to do that? She goes, Melanie, the spirit's telling me exactly what I'm supposed to do. And I'm like, oh, okay. What am I to say,
You could have said, I think there's something wrong with you, and I think that you're wrong for what you're doing, maybe.
And so, anyway, she tells him, I'm going to destroy. She's like, you are not Charles anymore. You are Ned. I forgot his last name. Snyder. You're Ned Snyder, and you're not going to. You are. I am. She told him. I think she told him prior to this, but she was translated. She was married to Moroni before. Already felt. So yeah, she's already telling him this stuff, and. Yeah, not smart. She should have kept that information to herself. So he gets me to come over to his house. He breaks into the house, and she's picking up the kids. He steals his key. It's a lot of drama in that. But anyway, he says to me, and I thought it was Lori, but he had herself up to him, so it freaked me out. And it's him, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So I talked to him, and he's like, Melanie, Lori's crazy. Like, she thinks that I'm this guy named Ned, and that she's trying to destroy my life. And I'm like, I just don't know what to say.
It bothers me that she's laughing about this, knowing that he lost his life viciously because of this whole thing unraveling. It's sinister.
Freaking out. Yeah, because I think my friends are good. She's seen Jesus. I'm really believing that she really saw these things. And I'm just gullible as gullible gets. And she stuck on me like Velcro. She was such a good friend to me. You know what I mean? Like, she was close to me. So I just stood there and didn't know what to say to him. And then he hugged me and he was crying. Look back now and go, oh my gosh. Anyway, so basically she sets it up where he sets it up. He's going to come into town, when he passes away. And they have a shoot down, and he dies. And out of self-defense, but the police officer told me that it was not the guy Alex that shot him, he didn't even really get hit that hard in the head. So, and Alex, bless his heart, who passed away, he just thought he was doing a favor to his sister. He didn't really care so much, well, to self-defense, yes. Well, because they planned it. I mean, so she knew that Charles was coming to town. And then she invited Alex over that night to spend the night. They're going to come and try to kill her. I said, well, why are they we're going to try to kill you? And she says, well, because I have a $3 million policy on my head, and my brother and my husband and my nephew are all zombies now, and they all want me dead. Oh, yeah, it gets crazy. So anyway, they have the shoot down and everything. And she grabs his phone, and they fight over that. And then Tylee, her daughter, picks up the bat and tries to defend herself or hit him or whatever. She doesn't like him anyway. And she doesn't like anybody.
I obviously didn't know Tylee, but from what I've heard from people who knew her, she seemed to be a kind, caring, and level-headed girl, and probably just didn't like Melanie because Melanie has a really creepy vibe about her, and she just doesn't seem trustworthy.
And so, anyway, they shoot him. And so I talked to the police officer. He goes, she was really happy for somebody that just had her husband shot dead. She was like, oh, how are you? Da-da-da. She's real positive and upbeat. And I was like, oh, that's not normal behavior to somebody that gets blown away in your front row. And, I mean, that would traumatize me. But anyway.
But then Melanie goes and visits Lori in Rexburg with her boyfriend. after all this happened.
So she's told to move up to Rexburg. The Lord tells her, move up to Rexburg now. She takes Tylee and JJ with her. Tylee and JJ are up there. I know she's up there with both of them because I can hear them on the phone in the background while she's packing and moving in. And then she tells me, I don't know, within a week or two that Tylee is now at BYU. He's up there. She's up there at school. So I go up to visit her, and I see that Tylee is not there. And I said, hey, Tylee's, I mentioned again, like, Tylee went to BYU. And she goes, yeah. But she gave me this really creepy look. Yeah, it was creepy. It was like, yes, she's dead, really. And yeah, almost that kind of look. But then I didn't know what to think about it at the time. I was like, why do I feel creepy when she looks at me like that,
So what she's saying is that she had a very strong feeling that Lori had murdered her daughter, but yet Melanie continued to spend time with her and talk to her and knew that Lori felt that her son was a zombie, and then Melanie turned around and left him in her care without saying anything to anyone. I mean, that's a crime, isn't it?
So anyway, then she tells me I get there in September 23rd weekend, and JJ's missing. No, JJ's not missing, sorry. JJ's there, and she tells me he's a zombie now, and so was Tylee. Yeah, so people that are zombies, they don't end up staying alive.
Wow. I have no words.
And so I say, okay, she says, I'm just going to give him back to Kay, the grandmother. And I said, well, that sounds like a good idea. Then you guys can move on with your missions. Just tell her to take Kay. You think she'll take JJ? I mean, he's a lot of work. Do you think she'll take, no, yeah, I'm hoping so. I'll just have to make something up. I said, well, tell her you're sick or something and that you just have some illness and that you're not able to watch after him. So, she said, hey, he's a handful. And plus it's not her kid anyway, right? Adopted him from Kay's family. Yeah, as a baby. Yeah, he was a drug baby. And she was a really good mom to him. She was very patient with him and very loving. I saw her. She's very loving to him. And, she was, hands down, she was a great mom.
Bear in mind, this recording took place before they had even found the kids. And yet, Melanie is already referring to Lori as a mother in past tense.
Very patient with that kid. So, anyway, so she told me, she's like, yeah, JJ is at grandma's house. Yeah, she went. So after I left, and I saw JJ right before I left, and she said within a week or so, that he had gone to Kay's house, and that, that's where he was. So then Tammy dies, and then she's in Hawaii when it happens, and I call her in Hawaii, and I say, hey, guess what? Tammy just died. Do you know this? And she goes, no, I haven't heard it yet. And well, what happened? What happened to Tammy? And she goes, well, she was a zombie 2 weeks before she died. But
this is confusing to me because she says that she called Lori to inform her that Tammy died and Lori had no idea. But then she goes on to say that then she asked Lori what happened to Tammy. But yet she was the one informing her that Tammy died. So you would think that Lori would ask her what happened. So that's a little bit confusing.
Like, really? She goes, yeah, she was starting to question our relationship. She was wondering if he was having an affair. I said, oh. And so, and I said, well, how did she die? She goes, well, we just had to do what we could to take her out of her spirit. Uh-huh. And I was like, okay. I'm thinking she said a prayer and her spirit went home. That's what I'm thinking, right? And she did some kind of like blessing or something, like people can do that, I guess. So anyway, then this is where it all changes for me. And so then I get a call from Chad 2 days before Thanksgiving. Hey, Melanie, Rexburg Police is going to call you. Don't answer. And I went, what? And my stomach just dropped. And I said, what happened? Well, the police are over at Lori's house, and they're looking for JJ. And she told them that JJ was with you. And I went, what? I'm like, well, I thought JJ was at grandma's house. He's not there, is he? And he's like, no, he's not. I'm like, what? And I don't know. Honestly, I did not know what to think at this time. I was so shocked. Like, my whole spirit was like, what happened? I was freaking out inside. And then I get a phone call from the police. Of course, I ignore it. And then Lori calls me, and she's like, "Oh, no, everything's fine. I just told the police with you and that you're going to take them down to Arizona." And I'm like, why? Like, what happened? And she's like, "Well, JJ was, we thought that JJ was going to get kidnapped by Kay, and so we're protecting him," and which is a lie.
So what she fails to mention is that she did lie to the police, and she had her son lie to the police, and she told them that JJ had been with her, even though he hadn't. So even though she thought that Lori probably killed her daughter and knew that everybody that said that they were zombies was dying, and now JJ is missing, she decided not to tell the police what she had thought and what she thought was going on, which was dire, and instead continued to lie and try to get away with what they were doing.
Which I believe is a lie person. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, "Well, I got to go." And I just didn't know what to say. I was just so dumbfounded by it all. And anyway, so I go down to Arizona, and her brother's down there, just down the street from me, because he's marrying my friend who's in my ward. Her name's Sulema. And so I said, "Hey, are you around?" And so anyway, I said, "Hey, let's meet. We need to talk." So I said, "Hey, Alex," I said, "do I want to know what happened to JJ?"
Do I want to know what happened to JJ? Who asks a question like that instead? Like, "Hey, Alex, where is JJ? Is JJ okay? Is he safe? Where is her daughter? I had a feeling that she could have murdered her." I mean, Jesus.
And he says, "No, you don't want to know." I went, "What?" She goes, "I told Lori she should have never got you involved in this." I'm like, "Yeah, she should have never got me involved. That was not smart." And then he said, "Yeah, the police ransacked my house, took my guns." And I'm like, "I wonder why they did that." I couldn't figure that out at the time. And I just figured, they kept telling me that, they had a lot of bad people working for them, that now the cops are zombies. And so anyway.
I'm starting to think that the only one in this whole group that was actually a zombie is Melanie, because she seems to be very cold and just careless about other people's lives, which is just so bizarre.
So I'm starting to get like really creepy feelings. And then, so anyway, one of my friends, he was with me. He goes home and he calls me up, and I'm like, he's like, "Melanie, I'm really worried about your testimony." I'm like, "What? Why are you worried about my testimony?" And I'm like, okay, I need you to be a friend. Let's talk. I said, "Okay, I'm not sure how I'm feeling about the zombie thing. What do you think?" And he knew what was going on and stuff. And I said, I don't have a testimony of it. Like, I'm not sure what to think about all this stuff. And he goes, "Oh my gosh, me too." He goes, "I just never have a testimony of Chad and Lori." And so all of a sudden, this heaviness that was on him was leaving him. Just the heaviness of he'd been trying to pray about if they were really who they were. And he was not getting an answer about it. And anyway, the heaviness leaves him. And it's David Warwick. You know who he is, right? He was the guy that was speaking at Dreams and Visions when you were watching. Didn't you watch? Yeah, he was the one that was speaking, the guy with the brown hair. He was speaking about his visions. Him and I are dating. But yeah, he's such a sweetheart. I really like him. But anyway, he's been questioning all of this, because he's really had amazing visions. And he's like, "This is really not comfortable for me, Melanie. Like, this is really jacked up." And anyway, we talked till 5 o'clock in the morning, and I was like coming to Jesus, and I was feeling the stomach, that deep pit stomach thing, the wrong, feeling it gut going, something's wrong. So I call Sulema, and I'm like, "Hey, Sulema, like, what did Alex say? I'm getting a bad feeling. I'm not sure what to think about this." And she goes, "Well, I don't." She just told me what her testimony was of Chad and how he gave her a blessing, made her also part of the 144,000, and said she was translated too. And then said she basically started having visions after this. Okay, she had a testimony of Chad that he was a real visionary. So I said, "Well, what did Alex tell you? What happened?" And she said, "Well, all he said to me was, you don't want to know." No. He said, they won't be able to be found. He won't be able to be found. I said, "You know what? I'm not really feeling good about this, Selena." I said, "You know what? I'm not really feeling good about this, Selena." And she had just married him. And because, that Chad and Laura were like, get married, hurry, you're part of the 145,000. And so they got married quickly. And so anyway, it was not good. And so I said, I'm going to have to call the police. Like, I'm feeling really bad about this, And my gut is screaming at me, and I don't think Heavenly Father's, pleased with me right now. So anyway, so I go fly up to see David because now I'm starting to feel insecure about how safety I'm feeling at the time, because I know he's up the street, Alex is, and I'm starting to feel uncomfortable with the idea of now I'm going to report him to the police and he can go to jail. And so I just leave town and go up to Dave, and Dave just ministers to me like the whole week. I mean, he is there for me. And I am like heavy with energy, super heavy. And I tell the police, I said, I'd like to talk to you. And he goes, well, when you get back to town, I'd like to talk to you. And so called up the Rexburg police. Okay, so I got to back up. I was speaking a whole bunch. So I called them, and then they said they'd talk to me later when I got back in town in Gilbert. So I decided to call Lori and Chad, and I recorded it. And I said, hey, why did you tell the Rexburg police that JJ was me when he was not with me? And she says, well, I just did that for your safety. I didn't want you to know where he was so that you would be safe. And, because, the situation's really uncomfortable, and that, we're trying to take JJ and da-da-da-da. And I'm like, well, you told me he was going to Kay's house. And well, we did that for your safety. And I said, you know what? I believe that you and Chad are being deceived. And I said, you're a core whore. And they said, well, you call me a core whore? And I said, yeah, this is like a core whore. And I said, this is like a core whore. And, carnal desires. That's why I did this, because of the carnal desires. And I said, she goes, you saying I did this because of carnal desires? I said, yes, you and me know both, hun, that you are very carnal. Because she has a very high libido. So I knew she was carnal. And, And so, and I said, the scriptures say that the Lord said in Doctrine and Covenants section 3, that if you would have followed him, he would have protected you against all the fiery darts. I said, if you guys would have been obedient, you would have been protected from all the fiery darts. The Lord does not work in darkness. The Lord would have had your back. And I said, well, no. And she's like, well, she compared herself to Ether that hid in a rock, Alma that fled, and Moroni at the end of his life fled. She compared prophets. And she's like, exactly. I'm like, oh boy. And she was not happy with it. I said, you are wresting the scriptures. I read the scriptures. You think I'm resting them? I said, you are resting them. You know what that means, right? Yeah. And I was like, and you are. That's what you're doing. And I said, I am concerned. She goes, you know how much I love you. And I said, I am concerned for your soul and your salvation. Yeah, and I did not hold back. It was like a 20-minute conversation. I recorded it, and I sent it to the police. And I was like, you just know for my record, I didn't have the kid, and but her goal is that she thought that the big earthquake was going to happen every month last year. She was told by Moroni that it was going to happen, and so therefore it didn't matter what happened to anybody or everything, because life was just going to change. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, so the police, I've talked to them, and they're basically, Chad is like texting people and calling people still. Yeah, they can track him and stuff. So they just a matter of getting evidence on him, I guess, now. But yeah, and so I hope that I don't have to go and testify. I'm hoping that won't happen. But anyway, so what have I learned? I've learned so many things. This is one thing that I've learned. I started thinking about the scripture from James, where he talked about so the scripture that says, for James, he wants for nothing, perfect, patient hath a perfect work, wanting nothing. The problem is that when we want something, and we want something, and we want something, there's a counterfeit that comes along. Joseph Smith wanted to give him the inheritance. He gave him the plate. He got in trouble as well. The Lord is trying to teach us is that we can't please our fellow man. We have to quit pleasing our fellow man and put God first.
So what Melanie learned from all this, what came to her head first was a scripture regarding pleasing fellow man and how you shouldn't do it, rather than learning that she should have listened to her intuition or whatever was telling her that people might be murdered, or maybe not get involved in evil witchcraft and groups that are judging other people as if they were God when they're not.
And so I started thinking of years, I believe he said in a conference that I happened to be at. It was like, 10 years I went to the Lord. I want to heal. I want to heal. I want to heal. I finally waited. Well, so this is where the Lord comes in. He's like, oh, here comes the counterfeit. And they opened the door to the doctrines of devils. Yeah. So this is how they come in. So all this energy work. Now, I used to kind of be a fan, a little believe in it. And I came to the conclusion from all my experiences that those things are to be taught and shared by the Holy Ghost. And that these people are opening dark doors. I think their light, it's bringing in darkness.
It just bothers me that her demeanor just seems to be like she has room to speak about this situation as if she were not completely involved in the entire thing and involved with all these people doing exactly what they were doing and believing in all this stuff, obviously. So then she just tries to distance herself, and instead of putting her head down and being quiet and feeling sorry for what she did, she is trying to act as if she has something to teach people, or that anybody on this earth should ever take advice from her. Like she is somehow wise, when at the same time she's saying that all these people were doing these like really obvious crazy things around her, and she just was like, oh.
And hey, okay, so I started really thinking about how this was affecting many people. Julie Rowe got really out of control, and then he didn't even like her at the end. He was like, didn't like her. So anyway, she's now put a podcast out about him and Lori. It's most disgusting. And she not only says he's angry, she's like, no, Chad and me are friends. We've been friends for a long time. And I know that my angels have told me that the kids are safe and they're playing on the beach and everything's fine. She's not going to look good when they show up dead. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, exactly. She's out of control. Her aura was gone. Not like this. Not like this. My stupid earphones off. I'm in earphone mode. Anyway, so there.
Okay, so the way the sound changed when she switched to earphone mode or whatever seemed like she's the one recording the conversation, not her friend, which is interesting.
So we're like a prideful group of preppers, you know that? So prideful, like we think, well, if everybody doesn't know what we know, then they're asleep, and they're just, look at them. And then so we just judge, and judge. I'm like, that doesn't sound like very Christ-like.
Melanie is the opposite of Christ-like. She's how I would imagine Satan would be, is very manipulative and deceitful and prideful. Completely lacks empathy for other humans.
Yeah, it's been a little disturbing for me to see this movement go on. And here, I'm just going to put the headphones on so they'll quit changing over. Now, let me close the door. They left the front door open. Yeah, well, I'm not distracting from their mission being together. Their whole thing is they want to be together. So I'm not stopping them from being together, so they don't have any reason of popping me off. Of course.
Again, at this point, they were not charged with any murders, and there was no proof of them popping anybody off. So the fact that she would say that, and just shows that she knows that they're going around killing everybody who stands in their way of their delusion.
And the Lord says, well, if you keep my commandments. Anyway, I've learned that we're very prideful people, and we need to be repenting of just believing in anything, and just really, we need to get back to the basics. And I tell you this, hey baby, I am so done with groups. Done. And this has taught me to just, keep my change of heart and focus on beautiful things and help my family and keep the commandments and do call and follow me and keep it simple. And if you want to get revelation, you don't have any business out seeking for your second comforter when you don't even know how to get along with people. Mm-hmm. Been ordaining people to the 144,000. Mm-hmm. Altar in this house. Altar. Please don't share this on social media. It's just for safety. Sad. It's so sad. You can know how sickened I've been by this. The first 2 months, I was like, I couldn't eat for the first 3 days. I just couldn't even eat. I was so disturbed. greatly. And I've been in touch with Melanie, her niece that got involved, and I've been trying to call her and help her, and she's just really jacked up. Like, she lost her kids, she got divorced, and she's up in Rexburg alone. Everybody else abandoned her. Sad. Yeah, it's so sad. Yeah, it's really sad. I don't know. I try not to ask. I mean, I'm not a super nosy person, so I try not to ask him too many questions. But I could have asked. I should have, but I didn't. Told him, I said, you know, that he's talking to, like, people on the phone every day, right? Like, you know, he asks about it. He goes, oh, yeah, we're very aware of it. So, yeah. They could have gone to Hawaii, because she loves Hawaii, so they could be in Hawaii. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I know. It's sad, you know, everybody, you know, Chad was such a nice guy. And he did have a hard time looking people in the eyes, though. Can't look somebody in the eyes, there's a reason. Mm-hmm. I know. It's so much. I've been telling people, as I've been sharing a lot with my friends and telling them, they've been shocked, you know, because they know Chad. A lot of them know Chad personally. And I said, you know, it's just prideful. It's all prideful. We want. And that's when the adversary comes after us. So we have to be so careful. And, you know, the Lord is teaching me, like, all about pride through all of this, and how just.
It seems like she's so delusional. She thinks that the Lord is teaching her to be more prideful, because that's how she comes off every time she opens her mouth about the situation.
Just, anyway, I did have a dream that warned me about deceptions, and it was a lion chasing me in my dreams. I came to understand it through other people. So my weakness is that I love because I have such a love for people, and I want to help people, it's my nature, I help people too much. I get to the point where I'd leave the tree of life to partake of the fruit, and I'd leave it and go try to get people to come back to the tree.
It is comical how she thinks that she is a caring person who wants to protect people, but yet she had just a couple minutes ago said that she was pretty certain that Lori had murdered her teenage daughter because she thought she was a zombie. And then she sat there and left her with JJ after she had said JJ was a zombie. And she kind of felt like she was going to kill all these people, but she didn't do anything to help anybody. She did nothing. She just sat back and watched it happen, and then later recounted it as if she was excited about it and giddy when she's talking about, like, terrible things that she had a firsthand part in.
Life, and that's where my sin is I'm leaving the tree of life to go help people that are off and down. And Lehi never left the tree. So the Lord gave me this cool dream about this lion coming after me, and every time it was going to eat me, and I'd always wake up with screaming. Well, I didn't scream when I woke up, but I'd go, ah, and then I wake up. So I started to figure out it was about helping people. And so it's a long story how I figured that out, but I know it's true. And when this last portion happened where I cut my friends off and just said, you can't be a part of my life anymore, the way I handled them, dreamed that night about the lions again. This time the lion came after me. Instead of screaming and turning around, I turned and I said, just believe in him, just believe in him, just believe in him. And then I see Jesus Christ. And he is standing there, and I walk towards him, and then he goes to the cave. And then I walk through the cave to where he was, and then he goes to the exit where the door is, and it opens up, and it's light coming out of it. Yeah. And I go, oh my gosh, I finally believed in Jesus Christ enough to cut these people off of my life, and this is what the dream was about. Time goes by, and I'm now realizing I am in the cave now. He was showing me the future of this cave now. And this is a cave, but the good news is there's light at the end of the tunnel. And so I'm like, I can't believe he showed me already that. And but the thing what troubles me, or I don't understand, is he led me through the cave. Like, I followed him. I followed him into the cave. He didn't follow me. I followed him. Did you want me to go through that? People? Like, oh.
So lions represent courage and strength and justice and truth. And my interpretation of her dream is that she was being chased by the truth and by justice and by everything that she's probably repressed and is terrified of having to be held accountable for. And then I think Jesus symbolizes sacrifice. So basically, she was running away from strength and justice and truth, and then there shows up her out, which would be to sacrifice possibly her freedom, her pride, her reputation. Maybe her family wouldn't want anything to do with her if they knew what she was involved with. And if she were to just be willing to sacrifice to bring forth the truth and repent for what she's done, then she could make it to the other side in the light. But yet, like she said, she's chosen to just stay in the darkness and keep everybody in the dark. And she is more concerned about herself and her appearance, and rather than people's lives and the losses that she was directly involved with.
Oh, yeah. Getting so bad, and I've told everybody, no more groups. And all my friends, I'm telling you, everybody that I talk to are like, oh my gosh, I feel so sick, I need to repent. Well, at least I went through this because they would have never repented had it not got to this level. If there was no deaths involved and like this, nobody would have ever known. It leads to bad things. So in a way, Chad and Lori were they were a blessing to many people to help them see how jacked up this is.
You have got to be kidding me. This woman obviously has no sense of empathy. I think she should think about how important her own life is to her and how terrible it would be if she was murdered. I mean, and how there was no way that it could be a blessing for anything. A bunch of people to be murdered. It just makes no sense that how she can think this way. And this is like right when it in the middle of all of it too, like not 10 years down the line,
And how off they are. And I hope that Julie Rowe at some point will come to the conclusion that she's off. I would love to talk to her. I have friends that know her personally, but I don't feel inclined to talk to her at all. Just don't feel that. Very strong-willed. And to another strong person like me, being a female, I don't think she'd like me very much. And so, anyway, I'm good friends with one of her really close friends, and him and I are close friends, but I haven't talked to her since he's been really involved with her. I've kind of cut ties with him because he tells her everything going on in my life. Yeah, so anyway, I've been humbled. I've been broken down. I mean, holy cow. Just not been fun. But anyway, I feel peace now. The Lord, I did receive a blessing from a man who's a good man here locally. His wife is amazing, and his children are just a beautiful family, man. And I just said, hey, I need a blessing. I've got some heavy stuff going on in my life. I said, I don't have time to talk to you about it because you got a kid that's sick right now, and I can't, have a chance to talk. And he gave me a blessing, and he said, he didn't even know what was going on. He said, the Lord is telling you to go back to your core beliefs. I was like, oh, interesting. And he said, there were people that are going to be criticizing you, but you should not listen to them. You need to turn the cheek and go forward. Yeah, and he said, you need to take a step back. And you need to heal, rest, and take care of your family.
Maybe she should take a step back and look at her family and think about how she's lucky that they're all still alive and how horrible it would be if they were murdered, and if somebody knew that they were going to be murdered and just sat there and did nothing, how she would feel about that person, and how she would think that person should feel.
And you need to go read First Vision. And, I read the whole Joseph Smith history in the temple. And you know what Joseph Smith did? He said there was a great excitement in the land, and he did not engage in the great excitement. He decided to go to the Lord and ask the Lord himself. Oh, Joseph, you were true to us, Joseph. True. I'm so thankful. Beautiful. So anyway, the guy finished the blessing, and he goes, I'm so sorry, and it's not me. I'm so sorry, but I feel like the Lord was chastening you. And I said, yes, he has been. You're right. No, it's not you. It's me. And he goes, I'm so sorry. I'm like, no, you're fine. I know you're right. He goes, the Lord is very aware of this situation. I said, oh, yeah, he's very aware. He was so in tune, wasn't he? He was so in tune with what the Spirit was saying, whispering to him. He's a visionary man, too. So neat. Oh, it is. I've had a hard marriage for 25 years, and the Lord told me last year, you can leave now. I was like, oh, are you kidding me? I was so excited. I couldn't help but to be joyful. In prison for 25 years. And I was like, I wrote the book and I did the change and I did all that, and there was no change in him. I was like, come on, they don't change. They don't change. I thought they change when you have a change of heart. No, they don't, Melanie. They don't necessarily change. The change is about you. It's not about anybody else. I'm like, oh, that was hard. But, I feel so happy and relieved not to be in that relationship anymore. Under mercy, it's yeah. But no, I'm good. I'm doing good. And David is amazing. And, him and I are super compatible. And we're both overzealous. That's our problem. That's why we get, you know what? So we figured this out. If you're overzealous, then you go too much beyond the mark and too excited about things of God. And then he was teaching us to bridle your passions. Oh, we are so not bridling our passions when we get so excited about things. And the Lord was trying to teach us, you need to bridle your passions so that you will have love for your fellow man. And I'm like, oh, okay. That memo. I just always ignored that one. Yeah, so just remember when you really want something bad to make sure it's what the Lord wants. Just don't listen to people anymore that tell you about the future unless, like it's a personal one-on-one conversation or something like that. Even then, it's, you got to get your own revelation. And I'm done. I threw Chad's books away. I just chucked them in the garbage can. I said to the police officer, I said, for being a visionary, ma'am, he sure didn't see this coming. You're right. He didn't see this coming. I'm like, yeah, exactly. I don't know about that. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I tried to talk to his bishop, but he just moved wards when he married Lori, so he moved so quickly. Never met him. Yeah, I never met him. So, yeah, it's sad. I don't think the kids are alive. It's sad.
So we're almost to the end of the conversation, and she finally just puts in her 2 cents about what she thinks is going on with the kids. You would think if you were in the middle of this situation, if I were talking to anybody, I would not be able to stop talking about where they possibly could be or what possibly could have happened, or say things like, I hope that they're okay. I'm praying that they're okay. And you know what I mean? And especially when you were so involved and had such an inkling that these things were going on, and then they turn up missing, and you're having a whole conversation and you talk about everything under the sun, your boyfriend, your divorce, and all this before you even mention anything regarding the fact that these children are missing. It's like when I have lied about something to somebody, I feel so uncomfortable bringing up the subject of whatever I lied about or mentioning anything that has to do with it. It's just so uncomfortable. Or an interrogation I was watching where this boy or this young man, his girlfriend was missing, and they were asking him questions about her. And during the interrogation, he was referring to her as that girl. And they said, what? The police said, what girl? And he said, the one that's missing. He couldn't even say her name, and this was like a close friend or girlfriend of his, and he turned out to be the person that killed her. And he was just so, like, he literally couldn't say her name because he was so uncomfortable with what he had done.
They are. It's just sad. They got repenting to do. They got to make it right. Got to get everybody to forgive them on the other side of the veil. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, you end a life. I mean, that's like, they didn't get a chance to live here. Their mortal probation, and it lessens it. And that's why it's so serious,
I think that Melanie has a really black and white way of thinking when it comes to her relationship with God and her religion. It seems like she's just kind of reading the Bible as a step-by-step guide on how to do something and just following it to try to get to the end point, but not actually being that in herself, or like feeling an emotional connection with what it means and what it means to be you know, a representative for God and to do the right thing, and the right thing meaning what you know in your heart is right rather than just what you think you read in the instruction manual as the right thing to do. Because I think everybody, or I mean, most people know what's good and what's bad. It's not that hard to figure out. It's kind of like instilled in you to point out in this world or know when something's bad, even if you've never seen it before. You just instinctively know this is wrong.
And the interesting thing is that everything I share with them is documented, right? Was before anything came out on the news. So people can say, well, Melanie learned this from other things, maybe. Oh no, Melanie didn't. Melanie learned this from other things, maybe. Oh no, Melanie didn't. It's hard to see.